Welcome to Powering Conversations, the interview series where we will talk to some fantastic characters from Northern Ireland. We'll hear their stories about old and golden things that have happened in their lives. We'll look at the heritage and we'll look at the future of everything going on in this great place. So sit back, pour yourself a beautiful glass of whiskey and jump straight in. Hello, how's it going? My name is Ronan Collins and welcome to the first episode of Powering Conversations, where I will be joined by Willie Jack and we're going to talk about all things Belfast and the Cathedral Quarter. Here, Willie, thanks for joining me today.
No, it's a pleasure, Ronan. It's always a pleasure to have such a powerful figure in the drinks trade. And welcome to our humble little friend at hand on Hill Street.
When you say the humble little friend at hand, it's got a beautiful extension and we're sitting in the new extension at the friend at hand.
Yes, but I haven't tried to make it like a multinational superstore. I just like to do our own little way, keep a little door on a busy street. People walk in and yes, they can be quite amazed as you tend to go through the shop. It's a little bit more than a simple off license.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes a labyrinth. You come up the steps and then you see it all, and every now and again you might even see that wee tag, not for sale or definitely not for sale, which is quite nice.
Yes, there's actually very little for sale, which doesn't make much business sense, Ronan, but some of the cupboards are not for sale, some are not for sale yet, some are never for sale, and in fact some are never for sale. In fact, I've decided to introduce some small quantity of Irish whiskey that has a Scotch influence, and they are never for sale.
Has anyone ever went against that without you knowing?
No, people understand that whiskey, and especially when you're dealing with very good whiskies, the history of it will never be produced. There's no amount of money can dig up another bottle of 100-year-old whiskey. So it's all about the provenance of Belfast, this particular Hill Street, all the bonded warehouses, all the great headquarters of whiskey throughout the world were on this street. And
it does seem like this is a beautiful house for them all to kind of be brought back together and join. And I've only seen a few cabinets, but the history that you can even read on each label is fascinating.
We had a great history here in Belfast at one stage. We were, I think, one of the largest exporters of Irish whiskey to America, well before Prohibition, but things changed, so now we've tended to concentrate on the companies that have always been here. We're not against new companies, and it's great for the Irish whiskey that 10, 20, 30, you might correct me, 40 new distilleries up and coming, but I still like the old ones. Because they were the leaders and they didn't fold.
Yeah, absolutely. As we would say, maybe old but gold, like they're still old there for a reason.
They might have had 3 swallows on the label, maybe not, but they were great whiskies.
We're very lucky to know that we were once a superpower in Irish whiskey, but not everyone knows that. So this is a great place to learn about that. But when you walk in to this new extension, I have to say the first thing you notice is the carpet. Or is it a rug?
It's a doormat, except it's a very valuable carpet. Many years ago, I picked it up. I originally was going to put it in an art gallery above another establishment we had in Waterman House beside it. It's a Donegal carpet. Donegal actually had a carpet factory in Killybegs. Unfortunately, economies of scale, it closed in the early 60s. But at the time, and I don't just speak in Northern Ireland, it's a province of Ulster, Donegal produced carpets for the Oval Office, which is the desk in a big white house in a big city in a huge country. And they also did for Buckingham Palace, and they did a private one for the New Ireland Assurance Company, which was a very Art Deco carpet in Dawson Street in Dublin. But things happened, it was too big, it was over 50 feet long, and it came for sale, and I looked at it, and it has a harp. And Ronan, now forgive me, I don't speak Irish, I don't even speak Ulster Scots, but I could pretend to, it's not that hard. It's 4 provinces, so the 4 historic provinces of Ireland. So we've got Ulster to the top, Munster on beneath, Leinster east, and Connacht and Hell to the west, all right? And in that there, in Irish, my God, your God, my land, your land, Mo dia, do dia, mo tir, do tir, with a fada over the eyes. It's a great thing, it's a talking point. And when I want to come into people, when they'll see the quality of the whiskey behind them available, whether it's for sale or not, I want them to look at that and think, we're in Ireland, we have a history, it's 3 inches deep, it's sunk into the ground. In fact, I'm actually going to ask a very old Irish firm from John's Lane, which is a place in Dublin, Powers Whisky, to provide slippers. I care that much about antiques that I would like people, like they do in the Far East, when you go into bedrooms or places, you show respect, and that means taking your shoes off. You may have stood in something on the street and all, and you put on these specially embroidered Powers Whisky slippers, and then when you maybe purchase one of our lovely individual series of Powers, you can keep the slippers.
Yeah, that's a great wee touch, that wee bit of added value.
Well, it's added value, and it's something that I don't know, I could be wrong, but I can't imagine too many off licenses are doing it throughout Ireland, the UK, or indeed even in the world.
The one thing that actually stood out for me about that one was it's blue, which a lot of people maybe don't really know, that the colour of Ireland, the national colour, is actually blue. And I think that's a fantastic talking point there. But to see this fantastic extension, that beautiful doormat, as we called it, you have to come to the Friend at Hand. You don't shop online, or you don't sell online.
No, we don't, and we've refused to, and if we've got through COVID without having the need to do it, then we want people to enjoy Belfast, to come to Belfast. We want people to fly in to Belfast. We want people to stay in the hotels that other people own. We want people to eat in restaurants that other people own. We want people to give work to the taxi drivers. And we want this unique, bespoke experience to see how creative and good we are in Belfast, that we're a class act, for want of a better word.
And outside of the fantastic businesses and taxi drivers and everything you mentioned, the people of Belfast, we kind of do make it sometimes, not to brag, but we do.
We are a different breed. We're cut from a different cloth, and that includes Donegal, for example, and Monaghan, where my mother's from. I sometimes think when I was in London that we were Scottish, but we're very proud Irish people. We just maybe speak with a different accent.
Unique and, characterful, but
we're creative.
Creative.
We're creative here, and the way we want to do things is different. The way we see promoting the North. There has been obstacles, and they're well documented about in and out of Europe and all, but we're a special place here. We're a special island, and we've got special people.
And that creative and uniqueness, it's almost perfectly summarised in the murals that you've had painted.
The murals are good. We always like the satire. We like to make fun of ourselves. None of us will ever take pleasure in paramilitary murals. Belfast has moved on. The dark days are well behind us. We're probably one of the safest places. And I want to show the fun. We always, in Belfast, the boy done well, you knock the boy down. And that's what we're good at. But we are actually bonded. And there's an awful lot of love in Belfast at the minute.
Oh, there really is. And specifically on this street, Hill Street, for such a tiny or short street, there's such a different variety and demographic of businesses and people working here, which is great.
Every now and then when we feel it falls a bit or goes sideways or maybe takes an odd step back, you'll find other creative people, and hopefully later on we're talking to a little chef. I calls him as a little cook, but far from it, a very talented individual. People have tended to migrate now to this street. And what was once a rundown area of Belfast is pretty damn creative in the talent.
Absolutely. There are some places in the world that have like tourist hotspots, or for that term, tourist traps, but the Cathedral Quarter and Commercial Court, they're like historic places. Like locals like to drink there as much as tourists, and that's super important.
Oh, it doesn't matter whether you're the road sweeper or the tea shop or the Prime Minister. Everybody's equal, and your behaviour has to be 100% when you're across the bar. We're very fortunate. We have 2 public houses, so the crack in them is pretty good. But at the same time, Ronan, if you click your fingers and someone says to you, "Do you know who I am?" I will refund his money and show him to the door, because if you don't know your name, you should not be in a public house.
Which is absolutely fair, and you do get that like vibe of equality when you're in your 2 venues.
It is, and outside, in fact, in areas that we've repossessed, it's not like a Reclaim the Ocean or the Belfast Lock global warming. It's a public street, Commercial Court. The umbrellas help, but the people working on the street help. The people who have been there and seen the vision of Belfast, of people, no matter what you are, what occupation you do, it's a leveller. on a Friday afternoon, on a Thursday night, you could be anything, any star. You could be sitting there having a pint of plain and a little Irish whiskey. It doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, there is no flags, there's no football jerseys sort of style in the venues. However, you did put a flag up once upon a time to make a statement to support.
I did at once. I said there would never be painted curbstones. I can remember during the Troubles, it wasn't just curbstones. A particular group painted a zebra crossing, which was quite creative. You could have hopscotched it, but it was also very sectarian. So I did make an exception once to put up a flag, and I put up a flag of approximately 200 feet, and it was a rainbow flag because I felt that we needed an extra push. Things have changed. They change in the province slowly. They are changing for the better, but sometimes it just takes that wee bit of extra push for other people. And I don't like any pub being labelled to make that push. And it was probably the biggest flag. Well, maybe at the minute in the World Cup there's bigger flags now, but it was a pretty good statement at the time.
Absolutely, it was definitely a golden statement that I'm sure helped a lot of people in the north, specifically in Belfast. So kind of taking a step away from whiskey and this fantastic whiskey mecca that we're in, you do like your antiques as well. Is that your other love?
It was a love actually with my wife Joanne. Her father had been a teacher and then an antique dealer, and when we met, I was in a flat off the Lisburn Road in a leather settee and a wide-inch TV. I'm now sitting in a Victorian house with Art Deco furniture. I have changed, and some people do make you change. You realise there are better quality stuff produced maybe 100 years ago. And it's a passion of ours. My interests maybe aren't too much anymore in an 18-hole championship golf course, but I love running through an old antique fair. I love finding things. I love imagining. I love learning things. What were things for? You wouldn't have believed the Victorians were creative and all that there. That's what enjoys us both.
Ah, that's brilliant. And it must be so fascinating, like the quality of that craft and the stories that have led to that said piece still being around today.
Well, it is. There are some fantastic painted mirrors here, and when you go down a rabbit hole and you see J. Vintonson, and it's a strange name, and then you realise he was in York Street, which is round the corner, where there is a new university, new people, new beginnings, brought in from the suburbs, and that's great too. People will be vibrancy. I've missed it by about 40 years, but it is good to find out what we had here once.
And you definitely see that in the mirrors when you walk in to this new extension at the Friendhan. On both sides, if you look over your shoulder, you see two fantastic old Powers mirrors.
Oh, there's Powers mirrors. The one good thing I should say is that when I do go looking for really quality things, right? And the Powers mirrors, for example, are over 7 foot tall, pure pot still, quality, thick Irish glass company making them. That's very important for me, the provenance. Where we can, a linen bag, we'll get it done in Lisburn or Ballymena in a linen industry. We'll not go to the Far East. And that's nothing wrong with the Far East. As a cost centre, it's great. But I prefer things Irish made. Years ago, nearly everything, every single, there was a pottery in Arklow, for example, and the jugs or weighed with one imported down were all local produced. Sadly now, big companies tend to send a lot of the stuff to the Far East as a cost base, whether you're buying a shirt or a tie, but I would like to try and keep it local as possible.
Absolutely. And do you see, I suppose a lot of lifeblood from Northern Ireland and Belfast would be in local collaborations, you know, and that's what this street seems
This street bounces off each other. If we are going to be talking to my friend Niall, we're coming out with a super collaboration, which when he's sitting here, I'll tell you about it later. And it involves Hill Street. I'm the oldest, and there's younger ones than Niall, and people with more hair than me. And it's going to be a good collaboration. And it's what we do best in the heart of Belfast.
Oh, nice. That sounds like one of those old but gold collaborations, you know?
We'll hope so.
Well, here, I'll drink to that. Willie, actually. Cheers.
Cheers. Lunch.
Oh, here he is now. How are you now? How's it going?
How's it now?
All good.
Now you nearly put my teeth out.
How are we?
Yeah, good, man. How's things?
Yeah, living the dream.
Yeah?
All good. We're banging away here. Doing well. Cathedral Quarter.
Yeah, well, here, thank you for joining. It's class to have the two of you together. You're in the same vein. The collaboration is key to the Hill Street.
I mean, it's like how I got Waterman House. We took it off Willie. Was very kind to give it to us. And now it's just everything goes in circles, and that's the whole thing. Everybody works as one, and that's the whole idea of the Cathedral Quarter. We're all in for it together. That's the way I look at it.
Waterman is brilliant just there because you can walk along and you can see it's always full, it's vibrant. There's such like a good vibe coming out of it as well.
No, it is, the whole idea is I just want an old building, a beautiful old building. We tried to bring back the natural colour of it. It was no government building originally, and then all we're going to do now is just bring it more modern. Willie's got his style, which is amazing, truly unbelievable, and we've got our style, which is very minimal. So I think the two really merge well together. Ours is a restaurant, we have an event space, we've got a cookery school, and to me the key thing is just I just want to bring people into the area, and a different type of person. You mean you would normally not come into the Cathedral Quarter, it's during the day, at night time. You know, we want this place to be all day, all night, and that's purely the way I look at it. So from offices to pubs to restaurants to retail, that's to me what the Cathedral Quarter is about.
And you can really see that when you walk around here from early morning. You can see the office workers going to get their coffee in the fantastic coffee shops here. And there's a couple of really bespoke retail places. And then, like you said, you've got that beautiful old style and vintage pubs to the modern, like minimalist restaurant that you have.
Neighbourhoods opening up, yoga studios, you know, all design. It's to me, it's just non-stop. And especially the people, there's a total mixture. From, as what he says, a road sweeper to whatever it may be, it's a total mixture there, and that's what makes the area.
We love Belfast. We're proud of Belfast. We feel sometimes the powers that be could do more, brighter streets and all, but we love it and we look out for each other. All of us work here. It's a community.
It seems like both of you are working currently on something that could be seen as a legacy that you're leaving behind in the future. I'm not saying anytime soon, but you've really developed something on these cobbles.
To me, it's like the things that last, the things that are natural. And that's the way I look at it. And it was just so Willie constantly pushing things on. Like, the man doesn't stop. Like, I would hate to be inside his head, you know? It just doesn't stop going. And that's the way I look at it. And then with a friend in hand, and like within the restaurant, like we do truffles, and we merge the friend in hand truffle, and we make it together. And we're providing it to Willie. And Willie's going to do something. You might as well talk about that, Willie, what you're going to do.
Well, it's going to be like we have little poetry books. It's a poetry courtyard in one of our premises. And the words and the wordsmith here in Ireland, I'm not just talking about W.B. Yeats or Seamus Heaney, but McNeice, Gary Lightbody. We have great wordsmiths, right? And the idea of having a secret book and opening it up and finding 4 or 6 of the most beautiful truffles you can ever have, not wrapped up and put in a cupboard. These things will be taken out with silver Belfast tongs, put in a bottle of friend at hand, and the collaboration between the book designer is on Hill Street. In fact, it's not actually even going to be Willie and Niall. It's going to be Willie, Niall and 2 Joannes. That's our wives, right? Everybody has an input. Everybody that opens the door in the Duke of York, or the person that makes you feel welcome in Waterman House. We all work together. We look out for each other, right? That's what makes it special. And if I was involved in the Northern Ireland food and drink thing, or on a tour, I would want to have one of those little books, because it's going to be so special. And it will change as we introduce different flavours throughout the years.
Different whiskies. We're going to use different whiskies, as in the Friend and Hands whiskies, as a change. When it comes to food, that's my passion. Food and wine's our passion. Willie's passion is the bars, the antiques, the stories. From Muddler's Club to the Merchant, to Neighbourhood Cafe, to the yoga studio. It's just, to me, it's everything comes together and just gives that real bit of positivity. And that's what we're trying to bring into the Cathedral Quarter, into the centre of Belfast. But, we're nearly there, but at the same time, it's got a bit to go.
It seems like this is a beautiful melting pot of creativity and collaboration, and that specific whiskey and truffle collaboration sounds like a match made in heaven for the two of you, especially with the poetry book and stuff as well.
But it's something to get in. That's the way I look at it. As we move on, Willie's going to come up with ideas, I'm going to come up with ideas, other people are going to come up with ideas. And to me, it's that collaboration is what it's all about. And it all started with the 2 Joannes. And then we sort of came in there a week.
So on that piece of collaboration, it's not just all talk. You've actually put your money where your mouth is when it comes to collaboration with other businesses in this area recently.
Yeah, there was a fire in Donegal Street, a friend's coffee shop, brand new coffee shop called Neighbourhood, and Oisin and Ran are the owners, and it burnt down. So I phoned Ran up the following day, says, Ran, do you want to take on Hatskis? Because we needed to do work to Hatskis. We closed it down because we didn't want to have 2 restaurants going against each other. So he's now taking it up. He's moving Neighbourhood Cafe into there. They do amazing product. Really, really good. Great coffee, great food. And it's just another thing in the area. Between there and established coffee shop, they are just amazing. And it's real quality. And that's what it's all about. And it was just a natural thing to do.
Ryan, who is one of the owners of Neighbourhood Coffee Shop, he also has a creative agency on Hill Street as well.
Actually, he did the logo for Waterman House. He helped us out with all the bits and pieces for tech stuff. So that once again, it's keep it in the area. And the guy is brilliant. He is actually...
And he loves old buildings.
Yeah.
He replaced, there was a hairdresser, and we were all sad for Bill, the hairdresser, to leave. It seems silly, but it goes back to, again, what we said about people working. He could easily do his blue rinses up in the suburbs of Belfast. But this guy, long hair, was down here. He didn't have a beard, which you two boys have, and every hipster has in the area. But he had long hair, which I can remember from the mid-70s. And it was good. He was in there. But Ryan came back and decided he didn't want to go to a fancy office block in a new suburb. No. We're looking at a river, which is river-driven. He wanted to be in an old red brick building on Hill Street, similar to Niall and me, and that's what we all like. He can see the vision, and it's vibrant. The street is vibrant now that we have people at the top of it again. It's great for Belfast. We do the umbrellas. We realise that not enough people in Belfast will look up, right? I look up and now I regret the Waterman House. It's a superb building, but Niall has done it very well. Different style. He's brought in a super retailer beside him. I want to look up, look at the old buildings that were in the area, and then look up and see that those rainbows, those umbrellas that light up. And for example, in a few days' time, we'll be putting on snow machines outside the Duke of York. They're not actually snow, they're foam machines from an island called Ibiza. I missed it by 30 years, but we're going to have great Christmas songs, the Pogues fairy tale in New York. We're going to have Belfast vibrant. We're going to have the streets safe. We're going to want people, after a couple of hard years, to come back into the city centre.
And to be dancing in the street. Well, every year they dance the street. And that's the key thing. You have 200, 300, 400, 500 people dancing in Commercial Court. And it's like, no matter what, you just smile. Because it's great. Now you can bring the kids down. Our kids come down and they watch it as well. They haven't got to the age yet where they want to start dancing, but they come down as well. So we come down every year with the kids and the family. Oh,
that's amazing. It's hard not to even feel like the palpable energy of that now, even sitting here.
That street was voted 13th best in the UK, and it was the best in the north, right? Don't forget we were up against little pretty picture card villages in Cotswolds with steep hills and flower baskets. That is a vibrant street. What Niall has said, Hadski's on it, ourselves, Waterman, that is the street that's working. And none of those other streets are as working of people coming out, talking to each other, shouting, banter.
But it has to expand it. Because these are two streets, Commercial Court and Hill Street, but we have to go into Donegal Street. We have to move the buildings forward. We have to make the area, the centre of Belfast, more lively for the people of Belfast, for people living in the centre of Belfast. To me, that is the key. It's just not these two streets, it's the bigger picture. So it spreads out, and the whole idea of this here just spreads out further. And to me, that is the key what Belfast is about.
Yeah, it's connectivity. We will connect up the main street, City Hall, to the new university. Old Belfast, New Belfast, 15,000 students around the corner. Great buildings along the way. Belfast Central Library, a Bank of Ireland Art Deco, a Singer building. We need to get rid of all the stainless steel shutters and get people back in, and the main thoroughfare saying this is Belfast at its best. People will come.
Now, we've talked about fantastic buildings, fantastic businesses, and even like the vibe that this area has brought, but the people of Belfast, we're a wee bit unique,
It's like I came back from London years ago to open a hotel, and then I decided to myself, just got married, decided to myself, right, I'm actually going to move back to Belfast. Went back to London, told the wife. She said, what? So Joanne commuted for 3 years, and I came back, opened up James Street. And that's the point where then I really got into Belfast. I really got into the people of Belfast. And I realised this is where I want to live, this is where I want to stay. And it really is unique. There's two sides of the coin, there's negative and all the rest of it over the past few years. But at the end of the day, the youth are who's bringing it through. My nephews, the younger children don't understand what the troubles were. And now that's how Belfast is changing. They haven't got a clue about it, and it's changing so much for the better. And the positivity is amazing. And to me, that is the gift of Belfast, and that is how Belfast is changing. And it's just mind-blowing.
Well, now, we're both Belfast boys, and don't forget the old saying, you can take the boy out of Belfast, but you'll never take the Belfast out of the boy.
Yeah, and do you know what? Anytime I travelled, any city I went to, or even I remember when I was in Vietnam, I would always do a cookery course, a local cookery course, and I always thought that was the best way to experience the culture. And you run a cookery school and cookery courses, and I think that's such a brilliant shining light for Belfast as well.
It's to me, we have one on James Street, and then we decided to bring it over to Waterman, and it's at the back of the building. It's purpose built. It's beautiful. It's on 5 days a week. And the great thing about it is there's people, it's night and day. So we're getting people into the area on a Saturday morning at 9:30 to do the Saturday morning class, and then there's other people come in the Saturday afternoon. And it's all corporate, it's locals, it's tourists.
But a theatre now.
It is.
It's theatre. Now the cooking is superb. The people come out with a smile on their face, Ronan. But now is also, we were talking at one stage of putting a pottery and people working with their hands. A friend of yours, we haven't just stopped here. There's other things. We like to see Belfast work. I would love to have some young design student out of the university doing silver, doing jewellery. Maybe the council could look at free rates and have people working. So as you walk down the street, you see different things. People go, wow, this looks good.
That's our vision. That's our vision for the area, where we want to have a creative hub at the right price for the creatives to come out of university, or people who've been going for years. That to me is all about the area, and that's what we're trying to get to in the area between the two of us. And this is what he says, it's not all about money.
No.
It's not all about money. And as soon as you start going, and it's all about paying the bills and all the rest of it, but it is about giving back. And I'm not just saying this here, I really believe it.
What do we give back in return for so much?
Yeah.
Pro Tanti Quid Retrobamus, PTQR, above every crest of every building.
Well, that seems like an absolutely beautiful bow to tie this all up. And you definitely get the sense of people, place, creativity and heritage. I know you're not just saying it, you can feel it from both of you. And what you've created now won't be the same if we come back and talk in a year's time. The olden bits are great, but the new bits will be golden. And it's a very exciting time for this Cathedral Quarter, Commercial Court, Hill Street, but Belfast and Northern Ireland. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for sharing your insights. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come. So I'll have a wee whiskey to that. But yes, launch it. Cheers.